Hey everybody, Mr. Hayes, Hayes' World of Math. I am here to help you excel on your AP Stats exam. We're getting down to the end of it. We have 2 more units to use. These are not often given lots of time in curriculum, sometimes even, sometimes occasionally skipped. Chi-squared usually is covered. My kids here also get it covered in biology, which is kind of cool. So we're going to talk through one of the free response questions that we've had recently on the AP Stats exam. So over here, we're going to talk about some stuff that has happened recently on the AP Stats exam. So this question here is, Research Center conducted a national survey about teen behavior. They were asked whether or not, did you drink a soft drink last week? And following table shows the counts for independent random samples from major cities. The 3 cities that they have here are Baltimore, Detroit, and San Diego. Yes, no, totals, and away we go. Okay. Now, the one thing to remember about chi-square tests on the free response question, from what I've seen, is that they tend to have you do parts of the question, or they don't give you huge bits of data because they don't want you spending your time entering everything into your matrices or having to calculate out everything by hand. So there's that. Question 5, in this case, also tends to be the one where they merge 2 different topics together. So while we see a two-way table, remember, two-way tables are also using probability, so odds are we might be using some of that. So don't be surprised if you're asked to kind of do a couple of different things. I know the way that I have these set up in the review, which, by the way, you can get down to the link below, the 3-week review course. Everything is free, giant spreadsheet, all the worksheets in the way that I have them set up, answer keys, all of that, ready for you to go through and rock and roll, including links to the more videos like this. Anyway, so this is geared more towards the chi-squared one. This could also have been in the probability one, but I put it in the chi-squared one because you wouldn't have known chi-squared when we did probability, right? So first things first, suppose a teen is randomly selected from each of these sample. A researcher claims that the likelihood of selecting a teen from Baltimore who consumed a soft drink is the past week is less than the likelihood of picking him from the other 2 cities. Why? Because there's less kids who drank soft drinks in Baltimore than there were in Detroit or San Diego. Seriously? This is why you need to take AP Stats, people. Or just take stats in general, because that's not how stats work. How does stats work? The researchers' claim isn't correct. Why? Because the probability of choosing the teen who had the soft drink is as follows. So the following is this. If I do this, now remember, if I pick, what's the chances I pick somebody from Baltimore and that they ended up having a soft drink? Okay, so that's, and oh, actually they're picking one from every town, so it doesn't matter. So 727 out of the 904 in Baltimore had it. That's just over 80%. Detroit, just over 74%. And San Diego is an even 65%. Baltimore, lots of soft drink drinking there again. If you happen to be from Baltimore, I don't know. They may have made this up. It may be true. I don't know. But anyway. So the conclusion here is, no, it's false. Why? Because San Diego's actually has a smaller probability of selecting a teenager. San Diego has the lowest probability of selecting a teenager who had a soft drink the previous week. Okay? It's not just pure numbers. It's relative frequencies. You have to check this stuff out. The good you people will do. Pardon me, that's my wife. Anyway, so construct a segmented bar graph of relative frequencies. Relative frequencies means that you're always going out to 100. The one thing that shocked me, if I remember correctly, is that if you don't put a key on this, you're going to get a partial. So always make sure you key stuff if it's not there. So here, we're going to go about out to 74% and about to 72% and down to 60%. And again, the filled in part is consumed, didn't consume. You don't have to be super pretty on this. You don't have to get every little thing. Something like this will be fun. Okay. 2, which city had the smallest percentage of teens who consumed a soft drink the previous week? We already covered that, but to be safe, San Diego had 65% of teens who consumed a soft drink the previous week. And then just for kicks, and compared to, and we'll say, what was it, 70 and 70% and 74%. just so you can look like you checked it out. Consider the inference procedure to be appropriate here among the three cities. What would you do? Now, inference procedure when you're comparing things, you've got, we don't have means, we don't have proportions. So this is, and since we have different groups, this is going to fall under chi-squared generally. Because remember, chi-squared for goodness of fit compares what you're seeing, categorical data, to a standard. That's not this case. We're comparing city to city. Independence, you have one sample and you're comparing two different facets of that sample against each other, and you're trying to see if it's independent or not. Definitely not this. So this means that this is going to be a chi-squared test for homogeneity. Because again, remember, because you're trying to say, is everything the same? We don't care what the percentage is, we just care that all three cities have the same thing. Identify the hypothesis of the test. So the hypothesis of the test is that the null hypothesis is, identify the hypotheses of the test. Null hypothesis, the proportion of all teens who consume soft drinks is the same for all cities. Probably should say the previous week. Just to be safe. And then the alternative hypothesis is the proportions of teens who consume the soft drinks the previous week. The previous week is not the same for all cities. And guess what? That's all this question asks for. They're not having you go through to do it. Partly because to go through and find all the expected values up here for this over here is rather time consuming. And they don't want you to spend the time on all of that type of stuff. So if you hit those four things, you should be getting 4 points on this, and then away you go to everybody's favorite question 6, which we'll talk about in a future video. Again, like, comment, and subscribe below. Over here, I've got some playlists, one of which is the chi-squared one, and the one above it is stuff we've done previously. Hope you find that helpful. I know you've already stopped watching by now, so I will let you go. See you soon.